I'd like to call this meeting to order. Terry, would you call the roll for me?
Archana Alia,
Here.
Eric Oran,
Here.
Kyle Peterman,
Here.
Lisa Roman,
Here.
John Madsen.
Here. If you'll take a moment and join me in silent prayer or private reflection. Go ahead and start that now. Amen. Stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does anybody see any need for an executive session? No need for an executive session tonight. The first item we have after that is call to public. Christine Simmons, you're our sole sign up for this.
I just have to gather one thing here. Sorry. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is my big prop. It says, kindness matters, join the movement. You all have a set of kindness cards, and I hope you'll pass it on. That's the whole idea. And I wish I could say it was my idea. It was not. I'm sorry. Oh, wow. I'm a big girl now. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Anyway, kindness matters is not my idea. I was watching TV, and there was this little old man, and he was being interviewed by a young man that had a big microphone in his face. And the elderly man said, "Just a moment, son." And he pulls out his wallet, and he pulls out a card, and he says, "Would you read this?" So the young man did, and it said, "Kindness matters. Make someone smile today." And then he said, "Now turn it over and read the back." And it said, "Pass it on." And I thought, I've got to find those cards. And I have passed out over 2,000 in Havasu alone. And they've kind of come full circle because a friend of mine was at a meeting and she said, a lady was passing out kindness cards. And she says, "Where did you get those?" And she goes, "Christine Simmons." So I was at Home Depot, and I was waited on by 3 different people in 3 different departments, and they were so kind to me. They went out of their way. I know they're getting paid, but they really took their time and answered all my questions. So at the end, I gave them each 2 kindness cards. I said, one to keep for your kindness today, and one to pass on when you receive kindness. And these guys were in their 60s, and they were so delighted to get this little card. So they are children cards, and I taught kindergarten for 38 years, and we followed the golden rule. But I never had a little card to reward a child when they helped another child, when another child fell or was injured or was crying or was hurt. And I thought, oh, I could have used these cards. So here's an example, a larger example, and it says, "You're awesome." And then on the back, Mom reads it when the child brings it home. It says, "Pat on the back. Bravo, exceptional, brilliant, way to go, outstanding, stellar." Here's another one. "Fantastic, magnificent, superb, great job, wow, take a bow. You are making a difference today. Kind people are my kind of people." So I would really love to see this kind of work its way through the school system, because guess what? City Council has been passing them out, and even the mayor has ended some of his meetings with "be kind." So here's "be kind." One kind word can change someone's entire day. Hold the door open for someone, pay it forward, treat others the way you would like to be treated. So it's very, very simple. This one is really cute too. It's high five, great job, fantastic, outstanding. And I just thought if a kid could take this home and share it with his family, his grandpa and grandma, look what I got at school today, I think it'd really change their life and maybe make them want to be more kind to others in their class. And guess what? I was shopping at the market the other day, and I found this little book. I think kindness is just falling out all over on me. And this one says, "Celebrate all kinds of kindness, where every kid is one of a kind." And when you think about it, we all have a different thumbprint, so we need to revel in the differences between us and share the kindness too. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you'll pass it on.
Thank you. Carol Nowakowski.
Good evening, President Masden, members of the board, Superintendent Stone, and directors. I noticed 6.1. I know most of you went to a law conference last week. I printed off the 41 pages of the 2021, the last legislative bills that will affect us. So I know in 6.1, most of them are being hit. So we'll just put that over here because that's not fun to read. What I did pass out before I came in was awards and grants that AA offers, and they are both for members and non-members. If you turn to the back, it says open grants, and those at the top are open to all non-members. And you will see we actually have the Angel Fund. So I'd like to get this out to also our administration, to our principals, in case they knew of somebody that maybe could utilize that. And then you'll see there's professional development grants. The annual grants that are down below, you just have to have a member, but it doesn't have to include all members. So they are encouraging you to, like the Promise Grant and the Lift Grant, those are opportunities for a group or team or collaborative efforts. And then if you go on the inside, on the right-hand side, Partners in Education Award, Presidential Award, and the Public Relations, we have local recipients that we have recommended, and they have received those awards throughout our community. We have River Scene received it, the Havasu Teacher Business Alliance that we had going a while back, they received it. Havasu Online has received it. We also have grants through California Casualties for sports, which is, we received a $1,000 scholarship, I believe, for the football program a few years back as well. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware that we have a lot to offer, whether you're a member or a non-member, and for students alike. And I just received an email in regards to some professional development. I sent it to my site certified board of review person for them to look at and maybe share as something that we could offer as free opportunity for our staff. There are definitely recertification hours, but to see if there's anything that would be allowable for horizontal. So that's all. Any questions? All right. 2 weeks left. Thank you.
That brings us to number 4, which are our consent agenda. Do I have a motion on our consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda as noted, as stated.
I'll second.
Val Muderman,
Yes.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Marciana Elliott,
Yes.
John Haskins,
Yes. That brings us to number 5, which is Student Achievement LHS Latin Honors.
Madam President and Governing Board, in an effort to support the academic achievements of the LHHS student body and align with practices. Sorry. There's too much technology now around me. And to align with practices used at many other educational institutions, LHHS will be using the Latin Honors System to recognize academic achievement. The Latin Honors System has been used in the United States since the 1880s. This program will replace the concept of designating a valedictorian and salutatorian at graduation. Under the Cum Laude program, more of our academically successful seniors will be recognized. In order to qualify for honors distinction, a graduate must earn grades, not credit, in at least 20 credit-bearing classes. The honors will be as follows. For summa cum laude, earn a minimum GPA, unweighted GPA of 3.9, take at least 8 honors AP and/or dual enrollment classes. Magna cum laude, earn a minimum weighted 3.7 GPA. Cum laude, earn a minimum unweighted 3.5 GPA. They can also earn a National Honor Society stole, which is given to senior members in good standing of the National Honor Society, and also a CTE Honor Cord with a minimum unweighted 3.0 GPA, 25% above the passing score on the technical skills assessment, and an industry-recognized credential during the 9 through 12 CTE high school program. Summa cum laude students will be considered to speak at graduation. Interested students may turn in a draft speech and will be selected by committee. In alignment with Latin honors and common practices of other institutions, LHHS will no longer be ranking students. In the rare event that an institution requires ranking, LHHS counselors or administrators will provide class rank to the institution.
So this item is just for discussion. Have we heard any response, or is this the first time that we're making this information available to the public, that we're considering this?
So this is not actually a board action item. There's nothing changing in board policy, but we do want to make sure that we make this announcement. As you may know, parents of honor students have their ear to the ground, and so this is the first official communication about this, but many parents are aware. We've seen a couple of students drop classes and pick up other classes, I'm assuming because of this change.
So that might be considered kind of an unintended consequence of doing that, is that kids are swapping maybe more challenging classes for a class that they will be able to achieve a higher grade in.
Correct. And so we're looking at the top 20 students. And so when you're trying to, the way that the top 20 works, it's a zero-sum game, right? I'm 20, you're 21. And so there's only a certain amount of students who can be in that. Rather, this recognizes all students who are able to achieve that. So there are students that take classes, my own daughter included at one time, to boost her GPA, so it's higher than other GPAs. So it might not be a class that child really wants, and might not be what they really want to do. So now they're able to take more CTE classes or classes that aren't just designed to out GPA somebody else.
Yes, I still have that experience, or I've had that with my daughter and her friends as well, taking courses that necessarily aren't preparing them for what they want to do just to game the system. So I think this is a good move. It allows them to take the pressure off of gaming the system and just take the courses that best prepare them for what they're intending to do next. So that's what I see this change is doing.
Most institutions are looking at unweighted GPA for application. They're not generally looking at weighted GPA. And so we want our students to take challenging courses. We want them to take AP and dual enrollment. But we also don't necessarily want students We also don't necessarily want students to take courses that are going to not be aligned to what their interests are. And so when we made this decision, it was made with the high school, it was made with counselors, it was made with people on site who are very familiar with how this works.
Another thing, being on the college side, since I'm at ASU, and I, with my daughter who went through the process of applying for colleges, their class rank is really not something that's very important to the colleges in the college ranking process. They're looking at more whole student approach, that you're 2 or 20. For example, you could go and be number 1 at a high school that has 12 students, as opposed to number 25 at a high school that has 500 students. That doesn't really mean a lot to the colleges in seeing those types of things. They are really looking at what your activities are, what the classes you are taking, not necessarily that you're gaming to get the high ranking, but that you're really doing stuff to prepare you and are active and passionate about things that you're wanting to do in the future. So I think this change lends that possibility better.
We've been seeing colleges move away from ranking for about the past decade, and now post-COVID, it's really accelerating. And so, by not having a rank, it forces colleges to look deeper because we just say we don't report. And so that has definitely been our experience, and that is what our counselors are sharing with us and what college admissions officers are sharing with us.
Jamie, does the K-12 Foundation still do their academic recognition banquet?
They do, and we have informed K-12 of this change. And
So how are they going to be able to identify the students that they have as they had in the past?
it will be up to them if that's something they want to continue or if they want to acknowledge students in a different way.
Has there been a study on, is this like nationwide? Are more high schools going towards Latin? Or is it just out there and some are doing it and some are not?
So yes, so more high schools are going to this, and this is the system that most colleges use.
Okay, so this will probably be how everybody's going to be ranked in the future. Makes sense. Everybody gets on board now.
I would like to just point out, although I value the discussion and the question asking amongst the audience because these are thoughtful questions, this meeting isn't a work session and the questions are just supposed to be asked by board members. It's okay, I'm not scolding you, I'm just pointing it out for future reference. And is the plan for this to take effect immediately? Mm-hmm. Okay.
All
What-
these poor students.
What's that?
We've got our audience today is mostly students.
Yes.
You poor guys. Sorry to
No.
include you in this.
I don't think they're poor. I think they'll actually benefit from this. I think, as it's been pointed out, this will allow more students to receive an academic designation. If you're in the top of your class, you don't necessarily have to be in the top 20. The other thing I like about it is that in terms of valedictorian and salutatorian, if we're choosing amongst the summa cum laude designees, then that gives more people a chance to submit a speech because some people really enjoy public speaking, and that person is not necessarily the person who's the valedictorian. So this gives, that kind of spreads out that opportunity amongst more students.
I think we're done with this now. Okay. That'll get us to 6-1. Mrs. Stone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just as a reflection, these are the policies that were presented to the board in the work session on October 24th. That was the first reading. Since that time, we have made 2 changes to policies that were requested by the board, and I will share that when I review very quickly. But this is the second reading for your approval. So I'm going to go through very quickly. As Mrs. Nowakowski shared, a lot of these are due to the legislative session, and that's why the changes have been made. The first one is about advisory committees. So if the board creates an advisory committee that is specific purpose of making a recommendation to the board about a decision that's being made, they are subject to the Arizona open meeting laws. For BEDD, rules of order, a motion to table is in order at any time. Such a motion requires a second and is limited to being considered only once on any given agenda item. And the governing board president may recess the meeting without a vote of the governing board in order to maintain decorum and the governing board meeting rules of order. In BEDH, participation at board meetings, presentations for unsolicited services will not be permitted. Those folks are to be directed back to the district, to the appropriate official. In BIB, board member development opportunities, no public monies can be used for training, orientation, or therapy that presents any form of blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex. This does not include any training on sexual harassment. This is one of the policies that was changed at the request of the board. So the blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex is defined in the statute by 7 concepts. The 7 concepts are now listed in the policy, as you can see on the screen. Number 5, DIE audits financial monitoring. The governing board shall publicly accept all audits and compliance questionnaires by roll call vote. This is something that you already do, but is now in policy. For DJ purchasing, the governing board may provide food and beverages at school district events, including official school functions and trainings as allowed by the Arizona Constitution and policies of the Department of Education. EEAEA, bus driver requirements, training, and responsibilities. This allows applicants to possess a commercial driver's license issued by the Department of Public Safety or by another state if the applicant will be driving a school bus for a school district that is adjacent to that state. So we could accept commercial driver's license from adjoining states to Arizona. GCB is professional staff contracts and compensation. This is where we have to provide employees with a total compensation statement that's broken down by category with all of their benefits. This is something that we already do, but again, it will now be in policy. GCF is professional staff hiring. Before employing a certificated or non-certificated person, school districts and charter schools shall conduct a search of the prospective employee on the educator information system that is maintained by the Department of Education. This is just to ensure that we're not employing someone who has lost their license or doesn't have a valid fingerprint clearance card. Again, these are things that we already do. GCH is professional support staff orientation and training. This, again, is the policy that was changed. It is the piece that blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex is defined by in ARS 15717.02 by 7 concepts, and we listed all of the 7 concepts. In GDB, support staff contracts and compensation, this is the same in that we have to provide everyone with their total compensation package. GDF is support staff hiring. This is the same in that we would check to make sure that they have a valid fingerprint clearance card and the appropriate certification if required. For IC, the school year, this is the instructional time model, and we've had our 2 public hearings in the school district to offer, to adopt an instructional time model that meets the minimum annual instructional time and instructional hours requirements prescribed in ARS 15808 and 15901 for all of the purposes described in 15901.08. For IHA, Basic Instructional Program, the only change there was that we have to have a kindergarten through 3rd grade teacher in each school who has received training related to dyslexia before July 1st, 2022. In IHAMD, Instruction and Training in Suicide Prevention, our student identification cards must include at least one of the following on new identification cards issued to students. the telephone number for National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, network of local crisis centers, a statement describing how to access a text-based emotional support service, or the telephone number for a local suicide prevention hotline. And as Mrs. Walter described earlier, that will be on our identification cards this year. IJ, instructional resources and materials, it just changes the definition of a textbook to include printed or digital content or both, and related printed or non-printed instructional materials that are written and published primarily for use in school instruction. In IJJ, textbook supplementary materials selection and adoption, again, it just updates that definition of a textbook. In IMB, teaching about controversial and sensitive issues, this includes the piece where a teacher, administrator, or other employee of a school district or charter school who is involved with students and teachers in grades preschool through 12th grade may not allow instruction or make part of a course the following concepts. And those are the 7 concepts that are in the first 2 about training that we talked about. JFAA is admission of resident students. They are accepting a consular identification card that is issued by a foreign government as a valid form of identification, as long as the foreign government uses biometric identity verification techniques, including fingerprint identification and retina scans in issuing the consular identification card. In JFAB, the tuition and admission of non-resident students, it speaks again of accepting the consular identification card. In JFB is about open enrollment. In summary, what they are asking that we do is that on our websites, we will have it available per school, per grade level, the available seats that we have in each of our elementary schools. So parents can see what's available and can select the school of their choice, should there be availability in that grade level. The other piece of that policy that it's important to note is that the transportation piece of students admitted through open enrollment, it used to be of not more than 20 miles to and from school that we could provide transportation, and now it's of not more than 30 miles to and from school. For JK, student discipline, this is the piece that we kind of talked extensively about. This is for our K4 student discipline, and it's really that we are looking at all of those preventative pieces and intervention pieces before we move to out-of-school suspension. It also makes sure that we have a readmission procedure for pupils in kindergarten through 4th grade who have served at least 5 school days of a suspension that exceeds 10 days. In student discipline, there's also regulating off-campus speech. While we can regulate certain types of off-campus student speech, we have to be mindful of student rights of expression under the First Amendment. Circumstances that may implicate the district's off-campus regulatory interests, serious or severe bullying or harassment that's targeting particular individuals, threats aimed at teachers or other students, the failure to follow rules concerning lessons, the writing of papers, the use of computers, or participation in online school activities, and breaches of school security devices. In JKD, student suspension, this again reiterates all the pieces of the K through 4 preventative pieces that we need to put in place before going to suspension. And JKE, expulsion of students, is the exact same information about the K through 4 preventative pieces of our discipline process. JLCB, immunizations of students, as stipulated in ARS 15-342.05, a school district or charter school may not require a student or teacher to receive a vaccine for COVID-19 or to wear a face covering to participate in in-person instruction. In JLF, it is reporting child abuse and child protection. In that piece, each school needs to have clearly posted and in a visible location of a public area of the school that's readily accessible to students, a sign that contains all of the information about where they can seek help in terms of hotlines concerning suspected child abuse or neglect of children, and instructions to call 911 for emergencies. In KB, parental involvement in education, we have a procedure by which we obtain signed written consent from a student's parent or guardian before providing sex education to the students. And at the same time that we seek this consent, we inform the students' parents or guardians of their right to review the instructional materials and activities. I will remind everybody that currently we only teach hygiene at the 5th grade level, and this will be something that comes back before the board at some point during this school year. We also have procedures by which parents will be notified in advance of and given the opportunity to opt their children into any instruction, learning materials, or presentations regarding sexuality in courses other than formal sex education curricula. Policy EG, office services, that is one that was just, we noticed that it was incorrectly written, that I believe we were open from 7 to 5, but it is actually 8 to 4, so we have made that correction. And the following is, or the final one is DJE, bidding and purchasing procedures. We are bringing that back to the appropriate level, that purchases of less than $10,000 may be made at the discretion of the superintendent. What that means is that they're not subject to competitive purchasing requirements. So the 3 written quotes, or if you move above $100,000, that must, it's subject to a formal process and a governing board vote before that happens. So that concludes the second reading of all of the policies. Again, it was a very busy legislative session, so lots of things to update. But just a reminder for the public, this is a second reading for the board. They have had an entire work session to review all of these, ask questions, and make any changes before they came for the second reading.
One quick thing, I think you misspoke on the office services, just to make sure everybody's clear. 7 to 4. That's what it's written in there.
7 to 4.
Yeah, just making sure everybody knew that. Just reiterating what Superintendent Stone said was that we had a nice long legislative session going over these, so we had a big opportunity to, discuss these, ask questions. That is available. If anybody in the public does want to see that, the video is available. Another thing just that goes along with that as far as transparency, you may all see that we have these today. This is just an interesting thing to note, is we are going electronic, and what that means for the public is that you now have access earlier to these, the agendas. And you're seeing pretty much exactly what we're seeing, except for confidential personnel information. So you have an opportunity to look at this, and the reason why I mention this is that you can, if you want to look at it and come and speak and do a call to the public, that is kind of the way to speak at these meetings. So we totally welcome that. It's transparent. If you see anything you would like to talk about on the agenda, that is kind of the way to do it.
And even though we did have an entire work session about this, I did have a couple of questions that came up. For the dyslexia training requirement, do we anticipate any problems fulfilling that requirement?
We do not.
Okay. And I did want to point out, we talked about the sort of controversial topics. One thing, Mr. Niederman and I were able to attend a law conference a couple weeks ago, along with many of our directors. In fact, all of our directors and our superintendent. And so this issue was discussed at length in that conference as well. And one of the things that I wanted to underscore is that controversial topics can still be discussed. It's just without the element of assessing blame. So we're not saying if you are part of this race or this ethnicity or this sexual category that you are somehow to blame for other people's actions, which I think is great, because you're not to blame for other people's actions. You're only responsible for yourself. But the topics themselves can still be covered. And it also is specific to curriculum and the teacher end of things. So students can still ask questions. This covers what teachers may say. Would you say that I've covered that accurately?
Yes.
Okay. And then my only other question was about the open enrollment. This was also something that was discussed at the law conference, that open enrollment can be a little bit tricky. If you advertise that you have, say, 50 open slots at a school, that might not be a true reflection because there might be specialized programs at your school, like a gifted program or a special ed program, and that might affect capacity. And so I just want to make sure, I would not expect our website to break the capacity down in that level of detail, but I wanted to make sure that our principals at the site level still have the ability to set that capacity.
Yes, absolutely. So really the capacity will simply say open or closed. And then the principal will have that ability to determine the actual seat capacity that they have.
And that was it for me.
Ready for action on this? Okay, we're looking for a motion.
I move to accept item 6.1 as presented.
A second.
Gary Corbin,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Archana Alliar,
Yes.
Tom Haskin,
Yes. That brings us to 6.2, which is the first thing under business services, which is purchase of custodian equipment.
Mr. President, members of the Governing Board, the recent award of ESSER 1 funds as part of COVID relief from the federal government provided a funding source to address the challenges of mitigating COVID-19. Expenditures which address cleaning resources are an approved and allowable use of funds. In assessing cleaning protocols and identifying needs, aging equipment, availability of equipment, appropriate equipment and supplies for task completion, and staffing standards were reviewed. As a result of the assessment and review, equipment availability, functionality, and reliability were deemed to be a need that would provide the greatest return on investment. The use of funds is aligned with the intent of the COVID relief awarded to the district through ESSER. There is approximately $430,000 remaining in ESSER 1, and any remaining balance to be paid would come from an allowable capital expense fund. The approval of a not-to-exceed amount of $440,000 would cover any unforeseen overages. Hilliard is an approved vendor through the Mojave Educational Services Cooperative 19A-Hill-0601, and the item has been reviewed by purchasing, and there is an attached quote there from Hilliard in the agenda item.
I would entertain a motion.
I move to accept 6.2 as presented.
I'll second.
I do have a question. Has the custodial staff been at all notified that we'll be receiving this money and asked for suggestions on how it's spent?
Yes, actually, we've met with the custodial staff on 2 occasions, one in the summer and then one probably a couple months after that, where the first session they were trained with the current equipment that we have in place, and then the second meeting was to look at the proposed new equipment so that they can hopefully do their job to where it's a little bit more efficient, a little bit less tasking on their body. A lot of the equipment they're using now is very much requires a lot of labor. It's labor intensive. The equipment is not as efficient. So hopefully through these upgrades, we might not be able to address the staffing standard, but we're able to address efficiency through increased or more equipment that's more high-tech and functional. So yes, they've met on 2 occasions, both occasions with the Hilliard rep as well.
Well, I do favor this. I think that if you don't know, there was an extra cleaning component added on because of COVID, and that requirement is still in place when a positive case is identified in our schools. And so the custodians have been working overtime for quite some time now, and so I do, I will lend my approval to anything that makes their job easier and more efficient. Yes.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
Carl
Yes.
Niederman,
Yes.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. That takes us to 6.3, which is under business services again. It's the IGA with
Mr.
Mojave Community College.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, dual enrollment provides high school juniors and seniors with not only high school credits, which count toward high school graduation, but with college credits while they are enrolled in high school. High school students will be able to attend Mojave Community College courses using MCC curricula and textbooks. Classes will be taught at the high school during the school day by qualified high school instructors who are employed at Lake Havasu High School. Dual enrollment provides free college tuition for high school students who are able to take these classes and making it possible for a graduating high school senior to have completed at least 1 year's worth of college credit by the end of his or her high school career, thus saving the student both time and money. And the agreement has been reviewed and approved by the district's legal counsel as to form.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept 6.3 as presented.
Second. I just also want to add, it's great that we have students here today because this is something that really affects you all. What Mr. Miller said was very true. You can save a ton of money for college expenses. This is both CTE and four-year university, whichever degree you go. Personally, you know, my daughter, she has about a year's worth of college credits. It's going to save her $48,000. $48,000. What can you do with $48,000 and start her job a year earlier, which those of you who like compound interest, that adds another year to compound interest. It's all plus. So every time this comes up for an agenda item, I am going to say this because I am so, I love this type of program because it's very quality. It is, it has a lot of quality. The courses that my daughter took here transferred to a prestigious university and just verbatim. This is something that it's not any less of a college course. Our instructors here do a very good job. I've worked with them in the past to create a quality course that you will step right into college if you're taking that, or right into your trade if you're going in that direction as well. So 100% for this type of initiative.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. That brings us to 6.4 under business service again. This is the Kinder Swim program.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The purpose of the IGA is to provide a program of swimming instruction and water survival instruction for kindergarten children in Lake Havasu City. The city will make the aquatic center available on days and times agreed upon by the city and the district, and will provide instructors and personnel to provide instruction. The district will agree to make the KinderSwim program a part of the standard educational curriculum for the district's kindergarten students. Approval of the attached service agreement allows the KinderSwim program to continue for 5 years until May 31st, 2026. The agreement may be terminated without cause by either party upon 10 days written notice. The service agreement has been forwarded and approved by district council. Actually, they've reviewed it and approved it.
I will entertain a motion on 6.4.
I move to approve 6.4.
Second.
If there's no discussion, then we're ready to vote.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. That brings us to 6.5, which is another business services one. It's the IGA between Western Arizona Vocational Education District.
Mr. President, members of the board, the purpose of the agreement is to establish the terms and conditions under which WAVE will provide joint technological educational courses at satellite locations in Mojave County, including LHUSD. Arizona Revised Statute 15-393L lists items that are to be included in an intergovernmental agreement between a JTED district and a school district. The agreement will be governed and interpreted by the laws of the state of Arizona and will be effective for a period not to exceed 5 years with annual review and possible revision. The agreement may be terminated by either party upon written notice to the other parties given no later than 90 days before the end of the semester. The attached agreement has been reviewed and approved by legal.
I'll entertain a motion on this.
I move that we accept item 6.5.
I second.
Do we have any discussion? If there is none, then we're ready to vote.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. That brings us to 6.6, which is the vouchers. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, vouchers for June and August are presented for approval. You can see June 2021, $8,785,314.99, and August of 2021 for $3,144,149.18. Student activity funds for K-12 for the July of 2021 will be available after the encumbrance period, which just ended, and we are in the process of now rolling over funds in that particular fund of student activities.
I'm looking for a motion on 6.6.
I'll make a motion to approve 6.6 as presented.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on it? They were ready to vote.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. That brings us to item number 7, which is informational. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just sharing with the board that this Friday is our first Sandra Day O'Connor Civics Day. So our teachers have been busy preparing along with our student achievement team. And apparently my mic was off. So they've been preparing along with our student achievement team, and they have lots of great activities planned for that day for our students. We also want to thank the Daughters of the American Revolution, who gave pocket constitutions to all of our students for Constitution Day on September 17th.
Thank you. Is there any informational stuff from our board members?
I would like to congratulate our superintendent. She was recently awarded the Rural Schools Association Champion of Innovation Award. And when I texted her to congratulate her about it, she shared that award ought to be shared by all the directors and all the principals and the teachers who put those policies in place. So, which is true. Any award that she receives is a reflection on leadership at all levels, but I especially wanted to congratulate her for earning that award.
I saw that. That was good. Do we have any other calls to the public? Do we have any board suggestions for future agenda items? Do we have anyone from the media here? No clarifying questions? And that brings us to adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I will second.
Eric Duran,
Yes.
Kyle Niederman,
Yes.
Archana Aliyar,
Yes.
Lisa Roman,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes, we're adjourned.